100 FM The Pike, Worcester's rock station. Add a little rock to that. And it's Bob and Zip here with an extra 2 hours of the show tonight for a big radio reunion that includes WAAF personalities, of course, many here at the Pike right now, and WFTQ, which was at one point it was a little AM weather station that could. Do you remember that?
Yes, did quite well, as I understand.
That was my first job in Worcester. But anyway, it's here where the excitement is tonight. And if you're into nostalgia and you love radio and you remember you don't have to remember all of it. We don't remember all of it. But the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, and now the fact that the Pike is still here with an incredible air staff of talented people who are veterans for decades, it's a testament to something magical that happened here way back when these stations were first created, I think in the late 70s, and great management all the way through, leading up to today's steward of this fine broadcast facility, Bob Goodell, who's the boss, he's the manager, but you know what? He's a friend to everyone he's the boss to. Bob Goodell, hi.
Well, that's I feel the pressure.
Yeah.
And I mean, how could it be more appropriate for an irreverent radio station that we all kind of started our careers with, that you're starting with somebody who really wasn't on the air? I mean, they made fun of me on the air sometimes.
You were the giraffe.
I was the WAAF giraffe.
Yeah.
I was
I'm a bit disappointed. I thought we told you to wear the giraffe costume for this.
Yeah, I still have the costume, and as I've said many times before, if I'm having a bad day, I just need to look at that and say it wasn't that bad. Because that was tough. Yeah, that was a tough gig to be in a suit that was hot.
Yeah, and they did not launder well.
No, it had a. Basically, and Harry Jacobs was actually in that suit. You couldn't be in it together. That would be wrong. But he was in that suit, and I'm sure there was some aroma that I might have contributed to his participation in being in the suit. But
for anyone who hears this WAAF giraffe and might not remember, I'm sure those of us veterans do, back in the day, radio stations would have a mascot. And the mascot was a way for you to identify with the station, geckos for car insurance. The giraffe it's probably the only thing that rhymed with WAAF, which wasn't even a word. But the giraffe was massively popular. What would the giraffe do?
Mostly grand openings. I caused some accidents one day down on Route 9 in front of Rayco. And they told me to go out on the median across from Spags. I mean, now I sound really old. And I was waving to cars, and there was like a 3-car collision that I was, allegedly the cause of. Everybody was fine. But I did notice inside the giraffe suit that, the DJs didn't have as nice a clothes and as nice a cars as some of the salespeople. So I ended up going off on the business side.
A problem that persists to this day, by the way.
So I thought, well, I'd like to be around music. I'd like to work in a creative atmosphere, but maybe this would be a better career path. And at the time, they also didn't think my voice was deep enough. Now,
your voice is pretty deep. Yeah.
But
for a giraffe. I've never seen a giraffe.
Well, guys like you and Warfield and people that had these pipes that,
you can practice
glass.
that in front of a mirror like this. Okay.
They said I didn't have the pipes.
Here's the beauty of it, Bob. You are you're telling the humble beginning story of essentially being a mascot in a costume, and now you're the president of Cumulus Worcester, running this whole operation.
Wow. Yeah. Still feels like a mascot in a costume someday, but.
Depending on,
and wrangling all this talent for this event is pretty amazing.
Look, all kidding aside, I mean, I wouldn't be here, and we all wouldn't be here without those call letters of WAAF, and I was there for 32 years, and I got to see all of these talented, crazy, fun, irreverent people come through, and I got to enjoy it. And I got to raise a family and make friends and help businesses. And there's nothing, I don't think my career, although I go, could I have been a lawyer or something, it wouldn't have had the fun.
And you're not mean enough. Sorry,
No,
I just know a lot of lawyers.
I don't know. This was where I belonged, but
Yeah.
and
Not all of them are
and
mean,
my
but
wife Beverly always says to me, like, she has all these college friends that they all get together and they hang out. In college, I was in the giraffe suit and I'm driving the van, so I don't have college friends. So all of you alumni from AAF are really my college. They're my college buddies. So, but I'm just happy you're here. I'm grateful that I could be a part of Bob's celebration to go into the Radio Hall of Fame next week, and I'm grateful that we're all here to celebrate and have some fun and tip a glass. In your case, one that doesn't have alcohol in it. Yeah. But
Bob
tip a
Zip.
glass and toast everybody.
Bob and Zip, thank you for the trade when we went to rehab. That was fantastic. Okay. And then lastly, can I just say a little bit about the call letters, some of what we discussed earlier?
Yeah.
We were having this conversation about WAAF and the call letters. And look, this happens when it was purchased by that religious group. And it's a beautiful thing. I love worship music. I have friends who record it and are into it. But when it was purchased by that, the WAAF call letters, of course, would be a bad branding mistake.
This is true.
So what ended up happening, and it's standard procedure, and it's no big deal, but the company parked those call letters on like some swap stop station in the middle of a podunk town with 500 people in it, just so those call letters couldn't be used
against them.
Against them. And I was having this thought, and then Bob and I were talking about it, It's been a while now. What if you appealed to the owner of those call letters and said, hey, WAF belongs in Worcester. We're not going to hurt you in Boston. We're certainly not going to compete with God, right? and wouldn't it,
Although we tried for many years.
we did, yeah. But wouldn't it be a nice thing? So we're sort of plotting that we might write a letter, or we might see this person.
If this person
at the Hall of
in
Fame
New York.
in New York, if he's there. But he has a lot on his mind.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be the guy that comes up to, hey, like the person who wants an autograph.
Could we have these?
But
we will. I will ask if he's there.
But it belongs in Worcester, and 100 FM The Pike, Worcester's rock station, is the heritage of those great years. And largely thanks to you, Bob Goodell, for keeping it going.
Well, thank you. And I have Chuck Perks, who, my partner in crime, who helped to program the station and conspired with me to get talent like Shu and Mistress Carey
yes.
and all the
Hall of
great
Fame
people. Adam
both those
Webster,
people.
who
amazing,
who has just become an incredible co-host, with Mike in the mornings, and then to have you guys for not longer than you were on the AAF.
15 years coming up on 15 years of Bob and Zip. Yeah, that's
a lot of brain cells.
We're almost old enough to drive a car as a show.
Anyway, Thank you for being here, and we're going to have some fun today.
All right, Bob.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Who do you want to bring on next? Just pick a.
Don't be shy, fellas and ladies.
Why don't we go?
Let's go with Harry.
Harry Jacobs.
Okay, and Harry Jacobs is a great story too, because
a former giraffe.
Harry is another. He didn't start in a giraffe costume. Whoops, you okay?
Don't get hurt.
Be careful.
You almost died.
I almost died.
Yeah.
I almost died. Listen, I was Bob's understudy in the giraffe costume.
You said even before that you were like 14 years old and just listening to the radio station, right?
Yeah, I got into radio by, through career education when I was in the 5th grade. So there was one job in the whole...
There was a course in radio in the 5th grade?
It was in career education. My teacher at the time got pregnant, and a sub came in, and the guy had this brilliant idea to turn the 5th grade class into a city. So the one job that was left over, I was an underachiever in school, probably like the two of you, and I said, well, I'll be the radio station. So I called Tom Doyle, who was doing mornings, and I hustled down to Mechanic Street.
Wow.
And I got a tour of the radio station, and it never left my blood. So I began to hang. I was 10, 11, 12 years old hanging around at the radio station. So when I was 14, I actually got on AAF the first time.
By the way, this is, to me, very curious and interesting because kids today same age, start on social media and start trying to build a following.
Yeah.
And I said earlier, I think radio is the original internet and could still be even closer to its audience by letting talent take more chances.
Oh,
and letting us screw up. We got to screw up, remember?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And
got paid for it.
And by the way, there's one thing I'll tell you about these kids. They would do it for free. They're all podcasting, doing it for free.
yeah. And there's no one coaching them, right? We had coaches. Right?
That's
we
right.
had people to say, do this, don't do that.
So in a weird way, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because you're doing this, you're hanging around the radio station.
Yes.
You're going to be a part of the radio station.
Right.
And eventually you become a major program director of another Radio Hall of Fame jock.
I went to, I ended up working at WZLX, so I got to oversee the change when Howard Stern got put on the morning show and La Quadera came over. And then I got to go work in Rochester with Brother Wee, so I worked for CBS and Infinity. And I had a really neat little career in radio. But AAF, I mean, there is something about AAF that just does something to me, whether I see the logo or I hear the talk. And I was on AAF only as a part-timer. And by the way, I was on FTQ as a part-timer as well, the other station we're celebrating today. And back in those days, you couldn't use the same name if you were on two different radio stations. Zip knows where I'm going. So we were out in the hallway on Norwood Street, probably drunk or doing something crazy. And someone said, listen, you need to come up with a different name. So all these names started to pop up. Johnny Fenway, and out of Zip's mouth comes Mike Logan. And so that's what I was.
That was your name?
That was my name. I was Mike Logan on AAF.
When I got mine, it popped out right when I popped out of my mother.
Yeah, listen, I'd love to have been able to use my own name.
Harry Jacobs. Okay, we got to take a quick break for some words from our sponsors. It's Bob and Zip here with a rock radio reunion and the FTQ reunion right here at 100 FM The Pike, Worcester's rock station.